Thank you for tuning in to Behind the Music, the show where we interview extraordinary people doing extraordinary things. Today I have Brian Gribbin. He's an awesome drummer, awesome vlogger, and he has a YouTube channel. And feel free to check out his channel. It's at Brian Gribbin. And he has a lot of great content on there. And Brian, are there any other social media platforms that you use?
I only dropped by in Pinterest a little bit, really. But he said, thanks for having me on your show. And I guess now it's me on the other side because I had you on mine. It was a couple weeks ago. It had just been last week when I released it, but I think it was back in December when we did that interview. So, how you been?
I've been doing good. Definitely been enjoying life. Been preparing for marriage with my fiance, meeting family, and life is good. I mean, I'm enjoying this chapter of my life.
That's pretty sweet. And when were you guys going to get married? You going to save it for the spring?
We're saving it for 2024. We're looking for August, or we're looking at December.
Wait that long? Oh man, most people have to get married. It's like spring or summer of the following year when they don't decide to get married. But you're waiting actually now 2 years.
Yeah. Just trying to take it one day at a time and pretty much just enjoy the journey.
All right, it's your call. Wish you best luck, man. So.
And Brian, the first question I wanted to ask was, how did you get your start in music?
You mean in terms of like the instrument or like music overall?
I guess it could be both in terms of the instrument and music overall.
Well, in terms of music, my dad was a big collector, and him and my uncle, they were real big into music. They used to goof around, do some little. They would kind of mess around with certain songs. Like I know War Pigs from Black Sabbath was one of them, and it was a little bit of a music family, but we never took it like large or anything like that. So after that, it was really just listening to like certain CDs, the radio, a good amount of times, and unfortunately, one of the things I always got stuck on was certain artists, and I mentioned this in one of my videos I did. It was like the 6 albums I kind of like grew up with. I'm hoping I always remember them all because I always lose like one of the names. But Metallica, Vertical Horizon, Bruce Springsteen. I was trying to make sure I remember the names too, but Springsteen, Three Doors Down, Linkin Park was also one of them because it was in around when new metal was starting to come out. This is Metallica. That's about it right now. I'm kind of missing all the names. I know I said 6, but there was 6 artists altogether, so that was always good. And I always jumped around a little bit, but a friend of mine, when I got into middle school and high school, that's when I got introduced to the alternative metal, and then I just found myself falling in love with more of the heavier metal, death metal as they would perhaps call it. So you could say I'm heavy and dark, to say the least, in terms of like what lyrical content it would bring. So in terms of drums, and this is a story I always like to tell too, but it's one I rob a good amount in my interviews. It involved the video game Rock Band, which I got in high school, because I was actually a cello player since 3rd grade, and I did that through all high school, but I dropped it in college because the college I went to didn't have a strings program, so unfortunately sat around collecting dust, and we eventually sold that. But in terms of the drums, after getting Rock Band, we just kind of messed around with that for a little bit, and then obviously progressed first with the guitar, and then I progressed with drums because I wanted to try something new and see what that was like. Had fun doing it. It always had a nice little calorie burn and everything too. Eventually, at some point, because I kept playing it so much and abusing my left seat, putting towels underneath me to simulate some sort of throne, my parents one day just approached me and just said, like, hey, do you want your own little drum sets? And I said, sure, but they wouldn't go with the acoustic set because I know that's one that you roll with. But we were able to find an electric drum set. Fortunately, the technology is around these days. Otherwise, they would have been asking themselves, how are we going to make this work if it was just acoustic sets all the time? So I know, a bit of a long story there, but to kind of close it out, finally got an electric drum set. It was a nice beginner. Rolled with that a little bit, and then I realized I was taking it serious. I finally decided to upgrade to the current kit that I've been playing for a good while now, which is in dire need of a new snare head because it's starting to peel back a little bit too. So there's a story.
Right. What made you choose drums over bass? Because I remember when you interviewed me, you talked about you made that switch from bass to drums.
Well, it was cello first off, but bass kind of worked its way in like a little bit every now and again. And that was actually my dad who got me into it. I took a couple lessons, but I never really took it serious per se. And unfortunately, it never really materialized. But I think it was just because of what I was doing at the time, and I just found myself loving drums so much after playing rock band, as I mentioned earlier. And instead of maybe I was picking up bass and kind of doing two in one and just mess around with each one, I just decided to stick with drums. And recently, because of live streams, which I would eventually like to get in on the social media and everything, I would like to get back into that. I had a little bit of trouble, so I put it back on the back burner for now. So right now, drums are just really fun. I find it therapeutic, and that's what a lot of the answers I get out of my podcast interviews I do. And I hope that answers your question, because that's really about it. So.
And another question that I wanted to ask was, how did you begin your YouTube career?
Well, YouTube happened really just out of boredom, really, because let's see, I think that was at the beginning. Maybe it's the year COVID had just happened. Yeah, I think it was 2020 was finally coming to an end, and I think I always thought about doing it, but I really didn't really fully commit until like later in 2020. I finally decided, like, all right, let's do it. And the first drum cover I uploaded was from Bolt Thrower's Mercenary album. I almost said Fourth Crusade because I ended up covering that one later, but it was Bolt Thrower's Mercenary album, and the song was No Guts, No Glory. So I thought it was fitting to at least start it off. It was basically just an iRig plugged into my iPhone, and unfortunately the screen was pretty narrow, so it was kind of unfortunate, but I figured, all right, I'm just going to plug this in here. I wasted too much time already, so, and that was actually before I got the GoPro and some of my later cameras, so just had to make do with what you can. And after that, it started first with just drum covers, just trying to get as much as I could in. And unfortunately, when I wanted to just try to expand the channel a little bit, I realized just doing drum covers really wasn't going to cut it, or just posting on social media, I'm like, hey, come check out this drum cover and that. And this was something I realized, and some sort of advice I'd give to people like you or other drummers who are trying to start a channel. They have to diversify in some sense. So hope that answers your question, and I guess we can talk about that a little bit if you like.
Sure. And that covers the other question I was going to ask. Was it hard to start a YouTube channel in the middle of COVID?
It was a little bit, but mainly because I really did not know what I was doing. Because you just hope, like, especially with the song I was doing, the No Guts, No Glory, because it's only covered a couple times, so you're hoping people who probably search that song all over the world, you'd think you'd get at least a decent crowd, because there's only a couple covers in there, so you think yours would be lowest on the tier, but maybe they just scroll down and just happen to come across mine, and nope, that's not how it works. So you realize you need a lot more, in a certain sense, consistency, as well as knowledge about how to work in algorithms, particularly the YouTube one, or even just posting on social media and stuff like that too. So it was hard in the beginning, and I kick myself nowadays for not trying to do those things that I've been doing today. So it's a bit of a lesson learned too, but I'm at least enjoying myself right now and just slowly growing to eventually make to the big names, or to the 1,000 subscriber mark, which seems to be the goal that these YouTubers who aren't just doing it for fun are posting diaries on here per se. So that's at least the end game right now.
And I noticed how transparent you were with your vlogs, and that's another thing that stood out to me. And I wanted to ask you about that. What inspired you to do vlogging?
I haven't actually done vlogs a whole lot recently, unless, what exactly are you counting as the vlogs? Because I know I did them in like the beginning when I was trying to diversify myself.
Yeah,
Are those the ones you're kind of referencing?
Yep.
I think it was when I'm saying, like, you start researching, you see like some of these big names, for instance, and some of those people, all they're doing is just vlog, for instance. Because I have to admit, I'm trying to at least work on becoming a writer per se, just for my own personal time and just trying to figure it all out on my own. But trying to write blogs per se with the B, it's a little bit trickier too. I actually took classes on that, and I now feel kind of bad, but regardless, it was still knowledgeable, and I still got the notes and everything. But in terms of the vlogs, I had to like at least keep it with the niche per se. So it had to be like music, and since we really weren't like going a whole lot anywhere because it was still COVID and everything, I think I was just trying to look for something to pass the time. So some of the ones I remember was like the exercise that I try to do since can't really go to the gym and try all the workouts and everything. I can't actually remember what the other ones were, but I think I did 4 of them all together, and then I just kind of ran out of ideas because I think some of the other ones, when we eventually started traveling, that might have actually been later because I know we actually were in Georgia. I assume that was late 2020. I get some of my dates mixed up, but yeah, I did start traveling and was trying to at least make it a partial music, maybe a partial travel vlog, but it turned out to be a little bit tricky too. But every now and again, I kind of like jump back into it, just kind of share what's going on my trips. That's now what I infused with my Q&A sessions that I've been doing. I'm already like 7 episodes in, and I kind of talk about the recent trip I took out west. That was actually to the Canyonlands.
Nice.
To Arizona, Utah, and a little bit of Nevada where Vegas was. So that's about it, really. And you could say that was our vlogs, but I just kind of give them a little update, just maybe encouraging people in a way to go out there if they haven't been out there. So that's what you could probably constitute as a vlog.
Right. It's cool how you kind of combine those two worlds together.
Yeah, actually, it was kind of funny, but I figured because I'm really kind of breezing through my questions pretty well, and sometimes I only have like one question, so that's usually about 2, maybe 3 minutes. Maybe after editing, it probably makes it a little bit shorter. So I figured just to extend it, because I like to keep mine within a 15-minute frame, since having a attention span doesn't really seem to work after maybe 20 minutes. But even though my podcasts tend to be like close to couple hours and stuff like that. So it was really somebody just threw in there, and I actually really liked the idea. So I decided, all right, let's just do that. And since you haven't mentioned the vlogs, I wasn't really counting it as it, but we can at least count it as a vlog. So there you go.
And right. And I also wanted to ask you, Brian, what was your favorite drum cover that you done?
Oof, that's tough because I kind of got back into it a little bit, but there's been ones I've been proud of. One happened to get blocked on YouTube, but it was actually partially blocked, and I think that was either 2 weeks ago or just last week or something like that. But that was actually an 8-minute song, but it was one of my more doom metal songs I was playing. But
the YouTube police.
Yeah, in a way. I don't know, because that's really tough. I've actually enjoyed playing all of them too. I try to at least put in as much as I can. But I think, there is one. And actually, we could say 2, because one was actually for a relative of mine who had tragically passed. And I did 2 versions of it because the first one I kind of screwed up on, but it was actually a 9-drummer collab I did with some friends of mine in the drum community. It was at Bruce Springsteen's Glory Days. So we did that. The first version, unfortunately, I screwed up because I wasn't very good. I was just hoping to at least get the audios to match as best they could. Unfortunately, a friend of mine kind of walked me through it, and the second version turned out a lot better too. So Bruce Springsteen's Glory Days. That'd be my answer to that.
Hey, it's nice that you didn't give up and you came back and re-recorded and just fixed it. Like anything that you saw that wasn't right in the first cover.
Well, actually, some friends of mine pointed it out to me, but I had a good friend from the UK who actually helped walk me through it to make sure that the audio lined up and everything too, so it didn't sound all mushy or out of sync and anything like that. So it took some time, but it got it to work out. Even though I don't know if I'll touch the 9-drummer collab anymore, but we'll have to see at some point. Maybe something this year will be a nice project, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm. All right. What kind of equipment do you use for your drum covers?
So I have always been rolling with electric drum sets. So it's the Roland TD25, mainly the module with the 2 outputs. I run 2 cables into the 2 inputs on my Scarlett 18920. I could have gone shorter, but at the time, I really liked the ATI-20, but plug it into those, get everything set up on Logic, and then Logic's really what brings in the song, which I'll play through the module in order to get the whole song down, and then afterwards I'll listen to it a couple times so I know like how to take it. I actually have a separate cord that I plug into my electronic drum set. It plugs in the back of my computer, so it records the MIDI. After that, when I'm ready, I record the MIDI, edit it all throughout Logic, just take out any ghost notes or anything like that, and then once I get it there, I just export it as its own audio files, and I put it into Final Cut Pro, do the whole videos, and then just see how it all looks overall, make sure there's no mistakes or anything like that. Then after that, once I chip chop at everything else in terms of the video to get it all lined up, or whether I like it at this angle or whatever, since I utilize 3 angles, I then just export it, and then off to YouTube and social media it goes.
Nice. All right. And what's your goals for your YouTube channel?
It's always been growth, really. I think this year I'm feeling confident that I can do it to reach the 1,000 subscriber mark. Really just keep going with what I'm going with, because I've started a couple projects. Because one's been the podcast that you were a part of. Those are ones I'm releasing every Monday. Wednesdays seem to be my Q&As. I'm going to at least diversify. Maybe if I'm feeling lucky, do 3 or 5 questions, stuff like that. Otherwise, I'll just stick with 3 and then just move some other ones to the next episode. And then Fridays either tend to be either a drum cover or the McGriff show, which actually you were a part of too. And for those who watch this or don't know about the McGriff show, it's I think how Johnny Cash's show was way back when he used to invite all sorts of country music artists on to his TV show. I think he was doing it from the Ryman Auditorium, but could have been Ryman or one of the other ones. Unfortunately, I can't remember at the moment, but it's basically like that. But I had people showcase like solos. I give some shout outs. I think I'm going to drop giving news, because I think that's what I'm just going to say for the Q&As. Maybe just maybe do a little talks here and there and try something like that. But I'll just see it when I do my next episode. But right now I'm kind of in need of a couple solo works, and then I'll start doing the shout outs, get those underway. Last thing I kind of started, and I started it today, was just called my Just Chatting series. And I actually had a nice little chat with Eric Henninger, who's the drum addict in the drum community. And just sat down and talked, and literally lasted about an hour and 30 minutes. And we just talked about random stuff, and we did get deep and personal a couple times. But just chatting is really just a way to reach out and like talk with people, because I think these days with the technology and everything, we tend to get a little too absorbed, and to a certain extent me as well. But I think some people too much just look at their phones and just keep scrolling away, and it's a bit of a waste of life. So this way it's at least nice to talk about things and stuff like that. So that's at least there, and then throw in some many collabs, which I got a couple right now. But do some collabs here and there. So that's about it, and hopefully at some point when the year ends, we reach the 1,000 subscriber mark, and hello 2024. Here we go.
Hey, that sounds like a good goal, bro. Yeah, Brian.
Thanks.
And how did you meet the drum community in the YouTube world?
I think it was going to be quite by accident. Yeah, if I remember correctly, when I first started the podcast, I did an interview with a friend of mine. He was my first interview from Nashville. And then I think one of my drum covers got a comment either from Drumman 190 or Drums by Ash Wells. And they had a nice presence and everything too. So I think they invited me on, and I think they also gave me a shout out, stuff like that. I think after that, I tried reaching out, because I think it was around that time I had found out about one of the YouTubers called Drummer's Key, and he did, I'm just going to say talk show, because I don't know if he really counts as a podcast, but he did his where he just talked with drummers in the drum community. I know that his recent one was one with one named Throwback Drummer, and I saw that, and that's when the light bulb went off. So after that, the rest is history. I just started reaching out, get to know people. They got to know me, and we message, social media, and stuff like that. We're now good friends in a nice little community here and there.
Nice, Brian. Because from what I've seen, especially from watching like your show and Mr. Earl's show, the drum community is a pretty close knit community from what I see on the YouTube world.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's like everyone's got at least a different background. Some people had their own little tragedies. Some were more blessed than others. Others just kind of doing it for the fun, really. They just perhaps get lucky here and there with some sort of videos they put up covering this and that. But yeah, we're very average middle class guys, just having fun and hopefully trying to, if we want to, because I know some of us just doing it for fun. But for those of us who want to reach it, we're trying to make our dream out of it too. So it's a long, arduous process, but it's something that we strive for.
So with YouTube, once you reach like 10,000 subscribers, the 50,000 and 100,000 mark, is it like a YouTube award or like kind of like walk me through?
You mean like in terms of giving advice for people who want to reach that?
Yes.
I think the first thing is you really got to diversify. This is something I mentioned earlier, and something I mentioned that I'm kicking myself because I wish I had figured out the whole podcast thing a lot sooner instead of just sticking with drum covers for those couple of months that I was just strictly doing it, as well as the vlogs. But really enjoyed first off, but then after that, like try to diversify it. So do something like a talk show or a podcast and stuff like that, or even just Q&As. Just try talking for yourself too, because the other thing that I find, which I think is complete BS, is some of these advertisements that says like you can just go on YouTube and try to make a little career out of it without showing your face or even speaking for that matter. So I don't know, that seems rather fishy to me too, because it's one of those like get rich kind of scams or something like that. So it's really going to be a long process, and I think unless you already are like a name where a lot of people like know who you are if you like played in a certain group. That's why I kind of think with like Earl, for instance, and he was a well-known drummer, and he was perhaps able to get maybe a few there because I think it took him a while to even get to the 1,000 mark too. But I think after that, all he was just doing is posting daily. I don't know if it was exactly daily, but he might have been saying daily. But regardless, that kind of leads into that with consistency too. So I like to try to do 3 videos a week. I think I'm going to throw 2 shorts in the YouTube shorts in the Tuesdays and Thursdays, which I think I'll try this week. But it's been a little tough too because, especially with all the projects that I named too. So kind of listed off: find a niche, diversify, but by still also keeping within your niche too. So you can do like the music podcast, music talk show, and stuff like that, and then consistency. After that, try to also learn the tips and tricks with like how to do the whole thing on social media, how to reach a broader audience. If you're looking for ways to like even monetize before you get to 1,000 subscriber mark, you could try sites like Patreon or anything like that. So you have to look into it too, because the whole thing, I'm still learning about Patreon too. So that'd be what I say. So see what you guys think.
Hey, that's a lot of good advice, Brian, and also leads me to my next question. Okay, as far as creativity, because when it comes to creativity, like having the grip show and having the Q&A and the drum covers, like what keeps you creative? And
Being creative in terms of like my videos a little different per se.
yes, and coming up with new ideas for the show, like what's your motivation behind coming up with new ideas and stuff like that?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I think it's because people haven't really tried something like this. I think, at least more recently, because I know the whole thing with the grip show, it's kind of based on similar, or I should say, it's similar to what Johnny Cash was doing way back in his day. But now it's like musicians, which unfortunately now it's just been drummers. But regardless, I would like to get some other people on there. But anybody who plays guitar, bass, it's just based to show off your skills. So that's really what it is. And I was trying to get your name out there, and like it's like, hey, I'm a human being. I'm right here, and I got my own special talents too. So that's one thing too. So, and podcasting, it's actually something I've really found myself enjoying. So, being able to interact with people now in and around the world without paying any sort of fees, paying any sort of fees or anything like that. So that's always been a good thing. So, what was it? Excuse me. Uh, Really, it's just being able to interact too, because unfortunately, I suffered from being a little bit of an introvert. So, doing this podcasting as well as trying to get the shoutouts, as well as even now doing this just chatting, for instance, it's really kind of helped me overcome that. So, I at least find myself a bit more talkative once, at least get to know you too. Otherwise, if you're a complete stranger in like a separate room, for instance, I might be a little hesitant. But I think at some point I might just say like, all right, I'm just gonna give it a try and see what happens. So I hope that answers your question. So
Yeah,
I don't want to get off topic because I might start going off on random tangents. So
it's okay. I mean, we have plenty of time, Brian, and especially when you talked about the introvert side of it. Yeah, I'm introverted too, so it's like trying to talk to people you don't know is like it's hard. And when you do interviews, I guess sometimes it breaks you out of that shell.
it does. And actually, I didn't realize it until one of the jobs I did after getting out of college was door-to-door sales, which ended up being a huge mistake, and I'm still kind of scarred by that in some way. But yeah, that's when I realized I wasn't as extroverted or middle of the ground as I thought I was. So it took some learning and also just trying this. So I've actually very much enjoyed even our little talk as well.
Same here, Brian. And I also wanted to ask you this question. What were your drumming influences growing up, and maybe the drum influences that you have gotten over the years? I remember you mentioned a lot of metal groups. Are there any other groups that have been a huge influence on you?
I think if we're looking back in the day, because it was a lot more of the classic rock. So let's say Bill Ward, Neil Peart, John Bonham, and I know people give this guy heat too, but I know Lars Ulrich, but it was also because I was listening to a lot of Metallica. So it was definitely that, and I've also enjoyed playing any Metallica songs, so I don't really care what Lars is playing, so I'm just enjoying it. I forget who Bruce Springsteen's drummer was, but his wasn't like overtly complex, even though I would say there's a little bit of intricacy involved with like Born in the USA, Born to Run. So I think when I started getting into the metal, I would say Pete Sandoval. It was from Morbid Angel. He was the grandfather of the blast beat, and even though they might give that name to Buddy Rich, since they'd be saying he was already doing a blast beat before anybody even knew what it was, but they give that to Pete Sandoval. I started getting into more of the thrash too, so it was like Dave Lombardo, Charlie Benante, a couple of drummers switching it around, but the first one that comes to mind with Megadeth was Nick Menza, and obviously Lars too, but that's with Metallica. But I think Trey Williams from one of the other heavy metal groups, and George Colius from Nile, and he jumped around a couple groups, but he's primarily known for playing in the band Nile. He's a Greek drummer. Very, very insane. That's what I'm gonna say. His drumming's just out of this world.
Yeah. Right.
So I would say that's at least been the influences. So hope that answers your question.
It did. And when you talked about the blast beat, I never knew that Buddy Rich was the first person to do it. Because when I hear blast beats, I always think about heavy metal.
Well, yeah, and I think some people in my interviews have been saying that too. So if anyone does want to correct this whenever they see it, so they are more than welcome to. But not sure if it was just something he was like messing around with. So I'm gonna have to listen for it. But that's what they said, because I think that's what made him very special too. But unfortunately, they gave the title more to Pete Sandoval, who came a lot later in the late '80s and early '90s. So I don't know. That's just my take on it. So anybody's welcome to kind of correct me, and I'll at least own up to it too.
What words of wisdom would you share with an up and coming drummer or an up and coming vlogger, or someone who is just starting their YouTube career that's thinking about actually making a career out of this and getting plugged into the drum community?
Uh, I think I could tie like all three of these together. But if you're dead serious about YouTube, you're going to need another job because it's not something that happens overnight. So do a full time job for the time being. Do it on the side, and this also ties in with drumming. Like drum the music you really love. I mean, I've always loved the metal because it's a nice challenge. It gives me a nice workout and everything. So I've always liked doing that. And a lot of the stuff kind of ties into one of your earlier questions, which I talked about, like finding your niche, diversifying and consistency, as well as research per se. Those all kind of tie in too. So really, you just gotta keep going at it too, and you're gonna get knocked down a good bit. You're not gonna really understand why you had 2 subscribers and then you lost 2 subscribers per se. It's it's just the belly of the beast per se. So you're in for a long ride, and I'm still in it too. I'm hoping to eventually get there and just try to at least make something out of it and try to have fun with it too.
And you're doing that, Brian. Yeah, I always see something, a new video from you on YouTube whenever you go in and you see your subscriptions. I'm like, hey, Brian's on a roll.
Yeah, and actually finally broke the 200 mark recently, so
Oh, nice.
that much I'm at least happy about. So 800 more to go, so let's keep it going.
And Brian, are there any other words of wisdom that you would like to share with the listeners today?
Technically, I don't like to get like too preachy or something like that too. So, and this also ties in with sort of the thing with me like starting the whole YouTube thing too. But later on, I really started realizing people sometimes have a little bit of a meaning crisis per se, or something existential. That kind of like throws their mind in a loop, and they start questioning their existence per se. In a way, this channel is also to give those people that meaning. So I'm not really knowledgeable in terms of theology or anything like that, let alone delving into secularism or anything like that. But I do have faith. I'm not technically one of the ones who like to get preachy, as I said earlier, but have faith in whatever it is, whether it's faith in yourself, faith in God. Keep going. That's what I like to say too. And no, there are people like us in the drum community. I mentioned Drumman 190, drums by Ash Wells. I'm not sure Drummer's Key kind of backed away from it, but I'm hoping he gets back into it too. But I know Chris, aka the throwback drummer, he's doing stuff as well. There are people who care, but the thing is, it's a little bit hard to find them too. So I'm hoping this channel and stuff I'm doing helps in some way. So, and if other people can try to follow that too, I think you can finally say the world will be a better place, even though that might take a lot longer than it probably should.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Showing love to people and being sincere, getting to know people, build relationships with them, and you may have a friend for life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, actually, we have become good friends for the short amount of time that we've known each other too. So maybe at some point, if I get into vlogs again, because I always don't want to say vlogs because it seems a little bit strange, but I think it's what's going to have to tie it to. But at some point, if I want to travel around, come visit drummers, for instance, and whether it was your church or even where your studio is, for instance, that'd be nice. So try something like that, and maybe do my own All Music Matters of that on the road. So
let me know whenever you're in Columbus, Georgia. I'm just a phone call away.
I gotta find Columbus first. So I've only been to a certain couple spots in Georgia. So
where have you been in Georgia so far?
it's always been in between Augusta and Atlanta because my cousin actually owns a house close to Lake Oconee, and it's a place we tend to visit every now and again. You know, house isn't in best shape and stuff like that. So other than that, we've been to Helen, Georgia, and traveled in around. Mainly everything was from the Lake Oconee spots. So we always have been to like Milledgeville, Mason, Eatonton, Greensboro. That's really about it. And then I've been to Savannah a couple times, so that's always been very nice.
Like, Savannah is nice. I love Tybee Island there.
Tybee Island. No, I wasn't there. I mainly stuck to the mainland, so
Okay.
guess we didn't really actually go that far out, to be honest. So I don't know, but maybe some point if we ever get back down there, it'd be nice.
That's actually where I'm trying to go probably this summer for my 1 year anniversary with my fiance. I'm taking her to Tybee Island. So
that'd be sweet, yeah. I've really been there, I guess. What's all there?
It's nice. It's like it's almost set up like Florida. You have the beach. You have a boat ride where I think you just pay like $75. It might be more now because prices went up, but they take you around Savannah and then they bring you back. And then it's a few restaurants, a lot of seafood places. I didn't get a chance to see all of Savannah, but I mostly saw like the downtown side of it, and I think there's a mall there too, and it's nice. They got some very good food there.
Southern hospitality, so yeah. Especially when it comes to cooking too. So, I guess was there anything else, or I don't know where we're at right now in the interview, so you have to fill me in.
I mean, well, actually, I guess we can get into the fun questions. I love when we did that in the interview you did with me.
Oh, now you're just copying me now. This is
fun. So I was like, man, I'm going to have to use this.
All right. What you got?
Okay. Hey, my fun questions are best restaurant in the South, and I know you're from up north, so what's the best restaurant up north?
One in the South and one in the North, huh?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of the restaurants I've eaten at were all along the highways, per se. But, shoot. First one always keeps coming to mind is Shoney's, but that'd be an insult. But
Shoney's are good.
They are, but actually I haven't eaten there recently, and actually my sister never really liked them either, too. So, if I'm trying to recollect from memory, especially with just being around Georgia. Even Louisiana, too.
I heard Louisiana Cajun food is really good, too.
It was, but this particular one was just mainly a rib joint. But I definitely don't like to discriminate, too. So, I mean, it's a tough question because, I mean, all restaurants I've been at, there's never been one that has been, like, real bad, per se. So, Shoney's has been one, and then, I wish I remember the names because I think there was also local joints that were in, like, towns like Greensboro or Eatonton that we normally would go to.
I guess it would be maybe
Chop House. I just remembered it. Chop House. That's what it was.
I never tried Chop House. Is it like a barbecue place or a steakhouse?
It's I don't know how much of a chain it is. It's probably just a local joint, but it's in Georgia. I think it's actually in Mason, I believe. Mason probably, or Mackin or something like. Name's kind of escaping me too, but the name of the restaurant was the Chop House. And it's in Georgia. It might be a bit of a drive for you. I don't know where you're located at specifically, but that's always been good. And the ones I've always gotten there was nice little ribs. Instead of just traditional barbecue, they dip it in all sorts of different sauces. They had like a little bit of a honey mustard kind of sauce there too. And then to answer your question for up north, did I tell you I actually worked in a restaurant and still technically working?
You never told me that.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I thought I brought this up in the interview, but as a second job, I work in a local family restaurant. It's a good friend of our family's, and it's just your typical bar and grill too. So, and he makes some pretty good food every now and again. And I always miss the cheese too. I think it was like Beclamar or something. It was like some sort of Gouda cheese that he kind of threw together too. But that was something that was pretty good. So the restaurant I work in is called Blue Goose Saloon. So that's normally been good, even though it's the most unhealthy stuff you'll ever eat in your life. But but that's technically everywhere else too. So in terms of a chain, I've eaten a lot at Buffalo Wild Wings. Even though the takeouts gotta get a little bit questionable too. I think they tend to struggle with all the calls they get in, as well as the takeouts. And another restaurant that's close to my neck of the woods is called North Park Clubhouse. So I know it's three, but if I had to pick one, Blue Goose Saloon, since you can't disrespect my boss or stuff like that.
Hey, I understand, bro. And I'll definitely have to stop by there one day if I'm ever in your city, and like I want to try the Gouda cheese. I've never had it before, so it's gonna be me kind of venturing out.
It wasn't really. I think he just mixed it in with it, but I think it was Beck Lamar. I think was the name he was giving him. I can't remember at the moment, but it was something like that. So it'd be interesting, but only for a limited time. So if you're gonna come, you probably should come soon because we actually started doing what we call a goose shire. Just use a flat piece of bread. We put turkey, bacon, and tomato, and then we put that cheese on top of it too. It's actually been selling pretty quick. So
it sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. And what will be your top 10? Well, I'll say 5. Top 5 acoustic drum sets, or maybe electric drum sets. Either one is up to you.
Well, it's good thing you changed the top 5 because otherwise I would have been kind of stumped here trying to Google search it too. But sorry, I got a little background noise there right there. So Roland's always been good to me. So they're a little bit pricey when it comes to the drum sets, and I kind of wish they made it look more like an acoustic kind of style, maybe somewhat of a hybrid set or something like that. But I would have to say Roland because they've always been good, and I've always loved the drums, and I never get picky with any of the noises, so I just ask for something. And I haven't really had much of a chance to experiment with some of the other brands, but some of the ones who do have acoustic sets in our drum community that I see them play, it looks like Tama's a real good one. I think Tama was mostly the one used. I haven't tried Pearl or probably should have changed it to the top 3 because those are at least the main ones that come off. I actually haven't tried DW, but I'm getting a little bit of a mixed reception on that too. And they seem to do like a little bit of a hybrid set. So DW4 if I ever get the chance to play it. Just trying to remember the last one because I know Pearl and Thomas seem like to be the big ones too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And you said you play on a Thomas set, right? Or was yours like a?
At the church, I played Tom. At the house, I played Purdy.
Purdy, okay. If I had a chance, I think I tried your set out for number 5. That'd be something to try out. But like I said, I haven't had much of a chance to do a whole lot of acoustic sets. I've only done one when I was with a cover group, and I can't remember what the name of it was. But fortunately, it wasn't too much of like a culture shock jumping in between electric sets to the acoustic set. Actually, it was pretty good.
Which one do you like better between the acoustic sets or the electric sets?
Given my living situation, I think I always have to go with the. Excuse me. I think given the living situation, I think I have to stick with electric for now. At some point, I think when I get my own house, I think I would use the electric set just to make the MIDI and like bring it all together and then play it all on the acoustic set. But if I'm feeling it, I think I might get an acoustic set at some point. I think I just have to figure out where to put it afterwards. So I think having both, I wouldn't really discriminate between having both, and I I don't know if I would, because I think I brought it up with you during our talk where I would merge the two together per se, and then just use the electrics as like percussion. So, or anything else that really comes to mind. But it's at least idea. But right now, just stick with the electric.
And it's probably a lot of ideas you can create with a hybrid set too, like you were saying.
It would be nice, yeah. But I think I was looking at it too. That's why I brought up DW as number 4 because they looked like they had drums that were right up my alley because they had a double bass and everything. But unfortunately, I'm like seeing reviews and stuff like that, and it's obviously it gets a little disheartening, or it kind of messes with you a little bit. So you don't know, is it worth the investment then, or am I gonna really screw myself doing this? So.
And about the double bass, is it hard to play double bass?
I think at first, especially going back to Rock Band, because there were some songs that, in a sense, required it. But what I started finding out was really just getting experience with like drop up in your feet a little bit. So, and what I mean by that is lift your right foot, and once you bring your left foot up, bring the right foot down per se. So you try to alternate it, and then it just comes with experience afterwards. So, have you ever tried experimenting with double bass?
I've thought about it once, but I just don't have the space in my house or at the church because we only have enough space for a 5-piece at the church. I wanted to turn it into like a 7-piece, and that didn't work. Like the drummer couldn't even get in to the side because you just didn't have the space for it.
Everything is tight on space. So yeah, I can see what you mean too. Space does get a little tight, so that's why I don't know where I put the acoustic set in the current living situation. So let's see what happens.
And Ryan, that pretty much covers all the questions that I wanted to ask. And thank you for tuning in to Behind the Music. This is Shawn, the show where I interview extraordinary people doing extraordinary things. Today we have Brian Gobbins. I just wanted to make sure I was saying it right.
I think we have to charge you now.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
Everybody who gets a name wrong. That'd be $5, man.
Dang.
Brian Griffin. Brian Griffin.
Okay, sorry. I'm gonna get it right, Brian. Okay. And
it'll be my fault too. I think I've always pronounced it wrong, or my handwriting's gotten terrible because I'm so used to typing on a computer now. So that's probably why they think it's an O.
It's probably me too. But I hope that y'all were blessed by the show today, and I hope that you are motivated by anything that Brian said today. Okay. Y'all have a good night and be blessed.